I'm Cody Popovich, and if you take one look at my eccentric appearance, you might think you were in the middle of the Spanish flu pandemic of 1919. But fret not, for you're actually still in the middle of the coronavirus pandemic. Now, while I was born in the 20th century, I am still living in the 21st century. And despite living in 2020, I dress more like it's 1920, listen to a lot of music from the 20s, and I love collecting antique playing cards. My entire wardrobe is inspired by the 20s and 30s, not just in suits, but everything from workwear to casual clothing. I think vintage menswear is fascinating, because vintage suits have fun little details you just don't see on modern suits, and even casual clothing and workwear have their own quirks that aren't mainstream anymore and they're a bit hard to find these days. However, my favorite bygone menswear trend are high-rise pants. I wish men wore them a little more often. I know women do, but I wish men wore them more often because they're more comfortable than low-rise pants, especially when you're a little overweight like I am, and they give you the appearance of longer legs, which is exactly what I, a person on the shorter side, appreciate. And vintage doesn't just stop at my wardrobe, because like a faulty nuclear reactor outside of town, vintage has irradiated my own taste in music. While I listen to a lot of different genres, I always seem to return to the 20s. It's hard to say exactly why, but quite simply, it just make brain feel good. And I can't find any other words to describe the music of the era other than just the word fun. My love of this music eventually opened the door to collecting old 78s, which has allowed me to own physical versions of songs I'd only heard digitally before then, and it gives me more of an appreciation for the technology that they used at the time in order to hear some of their favorite music. It's different when you hear a song coming out of a Victrola than it does coming out of a speaker. And while I collect old records, I also collect old playing cards. I used to work in a magic shop, which was kind of a gateway drug into collecting cards, because doing card tricks with cards that had unique backs, including reproductions of antique decks, lent a more unique vibe to my performances. And also the smell of a new deck of cards is definitely one of my favorite smells. If you had to pick one thing to huff, this is definitely the safest thing to pick. This in turn got me into not only collecting regular playing cards, but also antique playing cards. Even if playing card backs from, say, the 1890s are reproduced today, the faces are usually a little different from the originals. And playing cards pre-1940s feel completely different than today's playing cards. It gives you a different experience that makes you feel a little closer to the past than a modern deck does. In so many ways, I'm connected to the past while remaining tethered to the present. If you asked me 4 years ago if I'd like to live in the past, I would say no. I love modern technology too much, and society's a little more progressive than it once was, even if it's far from perfect. But if you ask me now, I might seriously consider it if it means I never get to see our president again. I'm a man out of time, and I'm perfectly content with it. I'll dress like Harold Lloyd no matter what anyone else says, I'll keep collecting antique playing cards, and I sure as hell will keep listening to musicians like Ted Lewis or Sam Lannon while enjoying the comforts of the modern era. Thank you.